everybody, today I wanted to talk about why I will never take the Greyhound again. The story actually happens about like 6 months ago, but I'm ready to tell it. So I had to go up to Minnesota, and it was the middle of winter, and I was not about to take my tiny little 2000 Toyota Corolla. That thing is like the original Mini Cooper. Okay, this thing is so small that I can park diagonal in a parking spot and still be inside the lines. This thing is also so small that when one time I saw these two trucks, you know, you have your little parking lines, and the one truck on one side parked over the line, and then another truck on the other side parked over the line, and I was like, these guys are assholes. Pardon my French, but they were. They took up 3 spots for the two of them when it was really close to the door. So you know what I did? I pulled my tiny little Toyota Corolla right in between them, and I had just enough room to get out for me, and I'm sure that they had a really hard time getting out. Sucks to suck. Maybe you shouldn't be such, well, a dick. Anyways, so this thing was not going to cross through like 3, 4, 5, whatever how many states I had to go in the middle of winter with various snowstorms coming across, and I knew that Hi, Coda. I knew that Iowa had just had a blizzard, and that one was coming on the way to Minnesota. So, after trying to find a plane ticket, which was actually like $1,200, looking up trains, which there were none near me, I decided, let's take the Greyhound. So, at about midnight, it came and picked me up. It was a little bit late. It's about an hour late. First of all, it was late. So it picks me up around midnight, and I literally took the last spot on the bus. So, I mean, I don't tend to call people fat or be cruel, because I know that that can hurt a lot of people's self-esteem, but this lady was fairly large, okay? She was so large. In fact, she gave me the inside seat, and I was literally half my seat pressed up against the window. And I mean, it was pretty cold. I didn't have enough room to not disturb her to, like, move over and slide a jacket in here, okay? So now I'm trapped with this lady who keeps coughing, and we had to make this stop like 20 minutes later, and I mean, no one got on and no one got off, but she was so mad that she could not get off and smoke. She had like a tantrum in the middle of the bus, okay? First things first, she was from California. So first of all, like, she already has like lingo and stuff that I don't understand, and she had kind of like a mild accent, but I mean, everybody has an accent that's not from your home state. And then she used all these like ghetto slang terms that I couldn't understand, and she was talking so fast that I was like, what? The only thing that I actually heard from her rant and rage was that she wanted a cigarette. And that's all I got out of it. And she was like talking to me and like kind of yelling at me, and I was like, okay. Like, I'm sorry, what do you want me to do? I'm not driving the bus here. Okay, so now I have to sit with this really upset, nicotine-deprived, larger lady who just keeps hacking up a lung, and I was hoping like she wouldn't get me sick. But now, there's these two guys, the seat over and behind, so like diagonal from me. Now, if Bob Marley was like albino white and had blonde dreadlocks, and he had twin boys, those were those boys. Okay, I swear to God, they looked like, I mean, they had like facial features, and they just like talked like him and like referenced his music all the time, and I was like, okay. Well, then they found out that the guy behind me was from Colorado, which had just legalized weed. And they start talking about, if you were really smart, you'd go and open up a weed farm in Colorado and you'd make yourself tons of money. And then they were talking about how many different things you can like put into weed, and how you can like make it different and make a taste and a high different. And I'm sitting here thinking, one day I'm going to have to answer a lot of really awkward questions from my grandchildren. I grew up in Whitesville, Minnesota. I've never tried weed. I've never done drugs a day in my life, and here I am like, well, we have a conversation scheduled with my friend Athena, who's going to teach us about the weed man, because I don't really know where weed comes from. And here I am learning all about weed and all the different things you can put into it and how to make it and all the different foods you can put it into, and I'm like, I've just been corrupted. Anyways, so we finally get to Kansas City, And I get off the bus and I go inside and I'm really not sure what I'm supposed to do. I've never taken a Greyhound before. And I have this little peep coat jacket that ties in the front, has some big black buttons, and it's white and black. You know, it's kind of classy. And then I was in jeans and just had some tennis shoes on, and my hair was down like it is now. And everybody else is in like sweats, hoodies, like just looks like they're lounging around the house all day. And I was like, well, I definitely was not ready for this crowd. Should have probably dressed differently so I could blend in better. Well, I decided to go outside, get some air, get a breather. And so I walked outside. I walked past the smokers, and I stood over in this column by this column by myself. And I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, this is going to be a very long 4-hour wait. So, this taxi driver pulls up, and he's waiting for somebody, and all the smokers go back inside, and it turns out I'm the only one out here. And I was like, great. This isn't scary at all. There was a lot of sketchy buildings, and it looked like the rundown part of Kansas City, and I'd never really actually been there other than the Greyhound, so I didn't know what to compare it to. So anyways, this taxi driver, clearly from the Middle East, I could tell by his accent, starts talking to me, and I'm like, I'm having a really hard time making out what you're saying, but okay. And then he like asked if I smoke, and I was like, no, I don't smoke, you know, I've tried it, I've done it a little bit before, but no, I don't smoke. And he's like, oh, that's good, smoking's bad for you, it's bad for your lungs, blah, blah, blah. And he pulls out this little cylinder thing, it looks like it could be bone, but maybe not, and he twists the lid over, and he's like, give me your hand, and I was like, okay. See, my thought and my idea about the Greyhound and about life in general is that if you just kind of go along with things and you're a nice person, you are less likely to get killed or robbed or raped or something like that. You know, just play along, and if you have to fight back, start fighting back, but for the most part, just don't make anybody upset, okay? And you'll be fine. You know, aggravated people with guns are probably going to shoot you because you made them mad. Just be nice to them. Maybe they'll let you go and live another day. So anyways, I was like, okay, here's my hand. And he pours out this stuff, and it's like brownish black, and he's like, smell it. And I was like, but I didn't actually inhale. And he said, you know, it's chewing tobacco. And I was like, oh. And he's like, if you just put it in your lip, and he's like, you're going to feel so great and high and happy and wonderful. And I was like, okay. And I was like, well, I have to go back inside. And I was like, he's like, no, try it. And I was like, I'm going to put it in this napkin. And I folded it up all nice and pretty. And I was like, and I'll put it in my pocket and save it for later because I got to go check in right now. So as I'm walking inside, I'm thinking, okay, the guy had said that it had come from Afghanistan, that it was real, that it was great, that it was fantastic. And I was like, why is something ringing a bell in my head? Why? I feel like I should know something that I'm not remembering. And I remember that Michael had just come back from Afghanistan. He said that there were a lot of wheat fields there. And I was like, well, after my conversation with the Bob Marley twins on the bus, they didn't say anything about being able to use weed as chewing tobacco. So I don't think that's it. And then I was like, they lace everything with opium, which is why it would give you that extra high, happy feeling. And I was like, there are drugs in my pocket. So I took out, as I walked in, like I made sure that I had rounded a corner so he couldn't see me, and I took the folded napkin out of my pocket and I threw it away. So I go and sit down. And I'm just minding my own business. I'm texting, playing games on my phone. And this guy just comes up and sits next to me. And I was like, well, okay, I guess I can understand that. There's not a whole lot of open spots in here. So him just wanting to sit next to me, I mean, it was probably inevitable. Somebody was going to sit next to me at one point in time. Well, I kind of noticed like something funny about his clothes. And I just didn't really pay attention to it. But I did notice that he was carrying like a motorcycle satchel instead of like any kind of luggage. So he's like sitting and he's like making small talk, talking to me, and I was like, okay, cool, yeah, sure, whatever. He's like, can I show you some pictures? And I was like, yeah, sure, you can show me some pictures, you know, whatever. And, you know, part of my brain was like, this is going to be a murder scene, and you're going to be abducted, and you're going to be next, or he's going to show you like some crime, or he's going to show you some rated X photos, and it's just going to corrupt you even more than you've already been corrupted tonight. But I was like, be nice and things will go good, and you'll live to see another day. So he pulls out this Walmart little envelope with all the pictures inside, and there's about this thick of pictures, and I was like, oh, I'm going to be here for a while. So I start flipping through them, and they're all these little miniature motorcycles. And some of them are like blue and green and stuff, and they were kind of neat. And he goes on to tell me that, he made these, that he had made them from hand, and they were exact replicas of Harley Davidson motorcycles. And that every part, like, you could take it apart and see all the individual pieces that you'd find if you took apart an actual Harley Davidson. They were just miniaturized. And then he had taken and built, there was another picture, it was of a really big garage, and all the pieces of, like, a hardware garage, and including, like, a lift for a motorcycle and stuff, were all inside of this, and even, like, toolboxes and stuff. And there was a lot of fine detail, and it was really kind of cool. And he says that, he built this, it took him about 1.5 years, and then he gave it to the American Cancer Society, and they auctioned it off, and they made a good chunk of money that went to help fund finding a cure for cancer. And I was like, well, that's kind of neat. And then he's like, yeah, I had a lot of time on my hands. And this was the first thing that kind of was like, well, that's kind of weird for someone to say. And he's like, I was like, oh, so it took you like 2 years? I was like, that's a lot of work, that's a lot of detail. And he's like, yeah. Well, when you have a lot of time on your hands, you find something to occupy your time with, and I had this friend, and he used to help me, and blah, blah, and all this other stuff, and I kind of wasn't listening. I was looking at the pictures. And then I saw a picture that kind of stopped me and just froze. Like, I froze. And this picture is of 2 guys holding up 2 larger miniature Harley Davidson motorcycles, and these guys are in a jumpsuit, but not the kind of jumpsuit that you would see a mechanic wearing. So this immediately, I was like, I'm pretty sure my heart stopped. I kind of lost my breath, and this guy was like, oh yeah, that's my buddy I was telling you about, and blah, blah, and I was like, and I flipped the picture, and I was like, please don't have any more of these. And he's like, yeah, he's still in Oklahoma State Penitentiary. He threw a claymore into a meth lab, and it ended up wounding or injuring, or something happened to some officers that were trying to bust this meth lab. And I was like, that's it. I'm gonna die. Like, I better make my peace with the world. Like, this is so bad. I'm in such a sticky situation. And I wanted to cry. I was scared. So I was like, I have to go to the bathroom. Classic excuse for a girl. I have to go to the bathroom. He's like, okay, yeah, sure. So I go off to the bathroom, and I wait. I take my time, and, I didn't actually have to go. So, I just stood there for a while. And when I walk out, he's waiting for me outside the bathroom. And I was like, oh, I really am gonna get abducted and murdered. So I texted my friend real quick, and I was like, look, if you don't hear from me in 1.5 hours, I'm pretty sure that you need to send out everybody you can find, and they need to do a body search. The last place I'm at is the Kansas City Greyhound station, and the first person that you should ask about where my body is this guy. I don't remember his name, but I sent it to them. I knew it at the time, and I was like, and he's in Oklahoma State Penitentiary, and you should probably ask where I am, or where his friend would hide me, hide my body, what he would do with it, So we sit down, and that's kind of when I really looked at his clothes, and they were jeans and like a sweatshirt, but it was the one size fits all kind of clothes, and so like it was elastic, not real jeans. Everything was elastic, and I was like, oh, he's really fresh from that place. He like just got out. And then he goes on to tell me about his friend and how, it gets really lonely in there, and I was like, oh God, I'm gonna get raped and murdered. And he says, I want you to write a letter to my friend, and I was like, okay, if it keeps me alive, I'll write a letter to your friend. And I was like, hi, my name is Katie. I met this guy at a bus stop, and I hope you're doing okay, and, staying busy. And, like, I'm just not sure what to say, but I filled up a page, and I said that my name was Katie. And then the guy asked, like, is there any room on my bus? Can you hitch along too? And I was like, oh, come on. And I told him, I was like, no, I've had my ticket for a week. I don't really know. You'd have to ask someone at the front desk. I was like, don't you have, like, a destination? And he's like, no, I'm just kind of going wherever. And I was like, oh, boy. I'm so screwed. That's what I was thinking in my head like this whole time. And then, you know, he kept like talking and like he wanted me to seal the envelope and like lick it because his DNA couldn't be on it. I'm like, oh God, what did this guy do? And as he was like telling me more about his life story and, you know, he's keep talking, I figured out that he had been in there for like the last 30 years. So I was like, he either did a lot of one crime at the same time or he did something really serious. Oh boy. Well, so I was trying to think, I'm like, okay, the bathroom excuse didn't work, what else can I do? And then I thought, and I was like, I know how to get away from this guy. So I was like, hey, some cool, nice taxi driver from somewhere in the Middle East gave me this awesome chewing tobacco, and I want to try it out. He said it'll make me feel great. I was like, so I'm gonna go outside, and I'm gonna try this chewing tobacco. Do you want to come? He's like, you chew? And I was like, uh-huh. So anyways, I was like, I'm gonna go outside and do this. And he's like, that's gross. And he like shook my hand goodbye, and I saw like a Nazi tattoo on his wrist, and I was like, oh, this keeps getting better. So like I went outside, and I sat and I froze outside doing nothing for the next 2 hours until they called that my bus was boarding. So the rest of the drive was actually pretty smooth. I had to share a seat for a little bit with some guy who didn't speak English, and that was totally okay. You know, it was fine, whatever. And then he moved over when there was empty seats, and I slept the rest of the way, and I will never use the Greyhound again. Not after that experience. So I hope you guys had a good laugh. I'm sorry that this video was long. Like and subscribe to my page for other totally screwed up things that happen in my life. And we'll see you later.